Hi, I'm Jennifer Poole,
And I'm Dave Poole.
and this is our 20 Days.
Well, hello again, everybody, and welcome to Our 20 Days. So today's episode is with Paul Moorman again. We're going to be talking about free stuff. But before we get to that point, some more free stuff. We've changed our website. Our20days.com is still the URL. So if you go to our20days.com, you're going to see a new look. So we're using a tool called Circle, which is a community type of platform. So going to be lots of new stuff there for all of our video podcasts, audio podcasts, courseware, other things coming down the pike. Really excited about the platform, but it's now live. If you should be so gracious, if you could sign up. So when you get in the upper right-hand corner of our20days.com, you're going to see a login button. You're going to see a sign up button. If you've not signed up yet, click on the sign up. All you need to provide is your name and an email address, and then set yourself a password. That'll let us categorize people and put folks in the right places within the platform. And if you'd be so nice to do that, I'd really appreciate that. And now on to today's episode with Paul Moorman. Okay, I thought maybe today let's talk about your free things.
Okay.
I thought that'd be a good topic. So tell me what you got.
So I've been blogging now in a sort of a daily blog. I don't say daily being weekdays. For about 9 or 10 years. It was something that started back at NewPage when I worked there with an internal tool, and I was just simply trying to see whether people would respond to it and could we get a dialogue on things. Back then it was mainly technology things and things that were related to the workplace and all that. And it caught on in a weird way. People wouldn't really get into a conversation online with it, but people would stop by my office and ask me all sorts of questions. It was kind of usually started like, I didn't know who to ask, but you seem to know something about everything. And so it actually ended up being an interesting internal marketing tool more than anything else. And I eventually moved that to the Google Blogger platform. And the way the daily blogs are is in general, they're around on average 3 or 4 sentences, a link to something and a picture. So the picture is really where you sort of have to pick up, use these free tools that I've just come to love. And the free thing is also interesting, is back when I was doing my architecture strategy role, for a while I would always put like $50,000 in the budget for something I might need to go off on some tangent. And after a while, I just told him, I really just don't need that money anymore. Between the cloud, if I need servers, I can spin them up. If I need some software, I can either go open source, or there's lots of free stuff out there.
Yeah.
So eventually, it just became a fun playground. So one of the things I do, since I put pictures in 99.9% of my blogs, they come from 2 sources. One, my Pixel phone. It's got an excellent camera on it. In fact, my wife says that it just outperforms her iPhone, so by leaps and bounds. So I end up usually taking pictures. So they come from there, or they come from some free internet site. So I use a handful of them. I've got 6 of them here. Pezzles is one that I use quite a bit. A lot of good. Those are more picture oriented, because some of them you need pictures, some of them you just kind of want drawings or various things. So Pezzles is a good place. Pixabay is a good place. There's one called Unsplash. I don't know where they get some of these names, but there's a Clean PNG. It used to be called, I think, Free PNG. A lot of good portable, PNG portable network graphics, whatever that stands for.
Yep.
One called KISS CC0. And the CC0 is important because what that is that's the Creative Commons license that allows you to use these pictures without attribution. You can use them for commercial as well as personal. So I'm always looking for something that's got that CC0 license, which I believe all these websites do. And then there's the final one's called free SVG, or scalable vector graphics. And that one's nice because, and that's generally drawings and things like that. But because it is a scalable nature, you can make them as big or as small as you want
Right.
to, and they maintain the fidelity. So if I'm looking for that, and I also write a newsletter for some friends of ours, and that's a free SVG is a place where I'll go out. If I need a little picture for the newsletter, since it's actually printed on colored paper, I need something with a transparent background. And
Right.
SVGs are just by their very nature have no background, so they lay paper very well. So I use a lot of those sites. You have to be a little careful on those sites because they also typically will throw up images from Shutterstock or some other paid service, and you have to be careful that you're downloading the right one.
And the thing I've found on some of those sites, and again, I've not used any of the specific sites you mentioned, at least I don't think I have. A lot of them, it's almost like it's clickbait, like you said, in the case of, the Shutterstock types of things, then, they actually show you a something you have to pay for. But in a lot of cases, it's like the stuff at the bottom of the ESPN sports page, these women were in the 80s and were really hot girls. And you go there and it's like there's 37 links on the page that comes up and only one of them is what you were thinking you were getting to. And, it's just really hard to navigate that sort of stuff. But yeah, I've used a good number of the free image types of sites myself over the years, and actually just recently was doing some stuff. And for a lot of stuff, I use it as, what's the right word? Inspiration, as much as anything, because I'm decent with the Adobe suite of tools. So Jennifer and I are starting a couple of new projects here. One of which has to do with audio and video production. And I was looking for something to create a logo that just kind of showed that idea. And I found on a site one that was just like the perfect image, but it didn't offer a CC0 license. It offered, you had to pay for it or you had to give attribution. And it's like, nah, I don't really want to do that. But I still want to stay inside the spirit and letter of that law. So I went out and created my own, thing that was, it's similar, but it's different enough that the idea was, it shows a projector, with a logo and some other things. But yeah, I really appreciate the idea of these, free sites for images in particular.
And I ran across one. I have a little demo that I have out on my main website called Triangles, and it really is I put it out there as a demonstration of what JavaScript can do, and some of the JavaScript libraries can make pretty simple for you. But I decided recently I wanted to put a sound out there with it, give it not just a video, but so it's like, okay, where am I going to find a sound that would be kind of interesting? And there are websites that have same thing, free sounds.
Yeah.
So I picked a railroad train or something like that. But yeah, it's amazing how much out there is free. And I'm not an Adobe person. I don't really know how that kind of stuff, because I really don't get into that kind of sophisticated level. But when I do need to do a little something, I generally find an online tool. I really have very little software installed on my Mac. I just don't want to do that. If I have to, I have a few that you have no other choice, like Wireshark or Audacity or some things like that. But for the most part, I try to keep it pretty stock, and I load Chrome, and that's a few other things, but not much.
Yeah, the thing on the audio thing in particular, on a couple of the other podcasts here on the Hour 20 Days, I talked about making a movie with my friend Terry Coates, and we got to a spot where we had a scene that we were creating where it was one of those make a huge left turn mid scene, and we wanted that sound of a needle dragging across a record, that hard turn left. And we went out, and Terry actually has I think it's Shutterstock, and they also have some audio stuff out there. So he had some licensable stuff, but none of it was like what we wanted. So we went out and did some free searching and found way more than I thought we would. I thought we'd really struggle to find exactly what we wanted, and it would be something that you could use for a commercial purpose for free. But we found several of them, so I was pleasantly surprised at that. Always nice to find something for free and not have to pay for it. So
yes, every time I write a blog, and if I use the word free next to it, I put in parentheses, "I love free." It sort of became a tagline for
right.
people.
So how did you? Kind of maybe a little bit of a left turn, but you write a blog, and it's you are historically way better at this than I have been about being consistent about doing it. One, what got you into doing the blog? And then two, how do you stay motivated, on track, whatever you want to call that, in terms of putting down content on a regular cadence?
Well, I said it really started at New Page, and but I found that the blog really gives me a couple things. One is it's a memory. I mean, literally is do you remember when you wrote about that, your cable modem and your TV didn't have the right resolution? And I go, yeah, let me go look that up. So
yeah, right.
Almost up to 2,100 daily blogs. So,
wow. So it's almost like a journal in some respects.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the other thing I find is because I have to constantly, I know that I have to keep generating things. It really keeps my eye open, and it really keeps me involved. I mean, like there was one recently, I don't know if it's posted yet, but about bicycle crossing signs. It was a bicycle detected. And I was like, and my wife pointed it out, and I go, I don't know what that thing is or why it's there or whatever, and I hadn't seen it before. So I went and took a picture of it, did research, and I wrote a blog on it. And it's those kinds of things where it's just amazing that when you have these little tidbits you want to write, the things that you find interesting just tend to really stay in the forefront. So to me, and particularly as I'm retired and getting older, I find that mental stimulation good. Yeah. It keeps me really grounded in that. And the blog has things like Foodie Fridays. So there's always a restaurant or a recipe or something. And my wife's a great cook. And I cook too, but she beats me for sure. So it's a nice way to say, hey, here's a recipe for, slow roasted barbecue pork, whatever. And, and I just always call her Chef Elaine, and just kind of acknowledge to her that, I do appreciate everything she does for me. Cooking wise.
It's also another example of, I appreciate somebody like yourself who does, here's a recipe or here's a restaurant or whatever the case might be. And it's pretty much just a straightforward written blog with maybe a couple of pictures. Because, again, we were talking about websites that get way too cluttered or sometimes intentionally cluttered. Recipe sites are the worst in my mind. You go down any of these and it's like, it's like, okay, I want to fix some pasta recipe, and I'm out there and I find one, at least the initial picture looks nice and it's interesting, and you click on it, and then you scroll and 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 you scroll, and after 5 minutes of scrolling, you finally get to the point where they say, here's the ingredients list. And it's like, I have a bias towards, I like simple. I'll make a complicated dish sometimes, but I would much prefer a 5-ingredient dish than a 20-ingredient dish, because if nothing else, there's a high likelihood there's a couple of those 20 ingredients I don't have and don't know where to get. So simple is better. But, again, the recipe sites, I really appreciate, people like you that write those sort of things up, because it's like, I don't have to work real hard to figure out if I can do that one or not.
The other thing I find, I posted one recently about how you can just take your finger and slide it across the space bar on an iPhone, and it actually just moves the cursor, or whatever you call it. It just moves character by character. And so I get when I first ran into that, I thought there's people out there that don't know this, and it's just so handy. I've poked at the thing and poked at it and tried to get it where I wanted it to go. Finally, had to like erase the word and redo it, and it drove me nuts. I figured, okay, there's somebody out there that's going through the same thing. And sure
Right.
enough, I got a written response there, just some from one of the ladies that follows it. Oh, thank you. It's just like I just knew this had to be possible some way, but I haven't figured it out for years. So it is a fun thing to do, but the other thing I think that really helps is because I schedule them in advance. So I create them in Google Blogger, but I use Zoho to send them because I can use my own domain name there.
Yeah.
And Google there used to be a capability within Blogger, it would do the emails for you. And then I got rid of that. So I have to use another tool to do that. And I found as I was going through that process and changing, I was like, oh, I can schedule these for a certain date and time. So at the moment, I'm scheduled out through the rest of next week. And it's probably longer than usually scheduled out. But I'm going to be traveling this weekend, and I'm not going to have a lot of opportunity to. So I wanted to make sure that got out there. And that's the other thing is that I feel less pressure to come up with that next idea.
Right.
I know I'm scheduled out. And I just know from my history, it's just like, as long as I get out and about and do things, I come up with ideas and things I want to share. So it really, I think I forced myself to do it a little bit, but then it just became kind of natural and I'm always like, oh, let me take a picture of that. Let me take a picture of that.
Yeah.
Figure it out. Or
right.
There's one that I still have to do. They installed a very strange electronic sign at an intersection that sometimes it says no turn on red, and other times it disappears and you can. I'm still trying to figure out why they did it.
Yeah, why they did it and how did they determine that?
Yeah, it's a three-way intersection. It's like, well, under what circumstances wouldn't you want someone to turn right here? It just doesn't make any sense. So it's those things that the curiosity in me just like, okay, that'll end up being a blog as soon as I figure out why they did it.
It's funny you mentioned road signs. One of my earlier video podcasts on Our 20 Days was a road trip I made up to Virginia Beach to see my friend Quint and go to a concert up there. And for whatever reason, I ended up taking kind of a more scenic route. The easy thing to do is just drive up I-26, pick up I-95, head north, and you're doing 90 miles an hour the whole way, and it's just kind of a boring drive. But I ended up going up US Route 41, which comes out of kind of the north end of Mount Pleasant, and then goes through just a bunch of little 500 person burgs, one traffic light sort of towns, and eventually you connect up with 95, but you cut down the 95 traffic by 2/3. So you're on, 2-lane highway for the most part. And for whatever reason, I noticed a lot of different road signs. And what I did is I got the little clip on my windshield where I hang my phone when I'm normally driving. So I'm doing hands-free if I'm talking to somebody. So I thought, you know what, I'm just going to turn the camera around, face forward, or use the face forward camera and record what I'm seeing as I drive. And I pointed it over to the right. So I've literally got 3 hours of just country road footage. And I've not quite figured out how to use that footage yet, but there's a blog there. There's a video blog there that talks about the thing that I noticed that was odd to me is all sorts of road signs say, slow down, railroad tracks ahead, whatever, things you would normally expect to see on a 2-lane road. I bet you there was 50 signs that just said church. And it's like, I wonder how many people are driving on a 2-lane road headed someplace in life and see the sign church. So, oh, good. I was looking for one of those, and pull over and go. It just struck me as very strange that there was that many church signs. Now, I guess I do live in the Bible Belt. I get why in a generic sense, but specifically, I'm not sure what the utility of the church signs were. So anyway, so we're on the same page there of sometimes you just capture stuff, not knowing what you're going to do with it, but there's kind of something there. It's just a matter of figuring out. Someday it'll come to me how to carve this up into a 10-minute video. So
Yeah.
Cool. Hey all, thanks for watching this episode of Our 20 Days. Look for us at our20days.com, and please hit the subscribe button so you're notified of all future episodes as they drop, usually on Thursdays. Thanks for watching.